Recently, the US and China have been head-to-head in a very confusing battle. But their war could have the same or similar consequences as the geopolitical warfare between the Soviet Union and the US. In both cases, an emerging and an already established world superpower turn hostile towards one another. It really is history repeating itself. The one difference is that the US and China both heavily depend on each other, and weapons of today are, well, capable of destroying countries who have nothing to do with both of these superpowers. However, if a war is imminent, then you'll probably have to choose a side. China has a huge economy, but the US has the Kardashians. It's really a tough choice, so keep watching this video of big facts to gain a good understanding of both countries' military comparisons and see who would win in the case of an actual war. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications button below. Wait, why are these two countries, who need each other for so many aspects of their economy, risking total destruction? Well, our pal Donald came to term, and the US-China relationship deteriorated to the worst in decades since 2017. The two countries slapped a series of tariffs on each other since 2018 and got into an effective trade war that was disliked by literally everyone involved. More recently, Donald Trump blamed Beijing for the coronavirus pandemic by saying that Chinese officials hid the virus for a longer time and messed us all up. These allegations were rejected by China. Washington also hit out at Beijing for eroding Hong Kong freedom. Now, as Donald Trump seeks a second term, he is expected to exploit this rivalry and further worsen the situation. Analysts claim that a war could be the winner takes all, which is probably not all that great for the losing side, as they would lose everything. That is why you've got to choose the right side. So, let's get into the comparison. Starting with the ranking, the US is ranked number 1 out of 138 countries, while China is ranked number 3. But don't let that be a bias for you, as their other factors are wildly different. A popular fact is that China is the most populous country in the world, with 1.4 billion people living in that huge land, whereas the US has around 330 million people. This, of course, means that China has a lot more manpower available to serve its military. The number of people that could serve China's army is around 752 million, while the US has only 144 million people available. However, China's fit for service falls down to 621 million people, while the US has 119 million people who are fit for service. Nope, the population contest and the complexity of it doesn't end there. This emerging war could take some time, and the more time it takes, the larger both armies would grow. But there's a disparity that comes with time. China has more than 19 million people coming to military age annually, while the US has a measly 4 million coming to age every year. Let us clarify that. These figures are not actually the people who serve both the armies. This is in case of drafting, which means more or less recruiting officers but without any prior consent. Actually, the US has 1 million active personnel, and China has double that figure. Interesting fact, China has less reserve soldiers than the US. Who would have thought? Not us. But let's leave aside the population factor for a moment and take into account the real boss, money. You really don't have to be a war expert, if those exist, to know the victor has a lot of money, always. Money can buy weapons, but more importantly, it can buy people and their loyalty. However, judging the financial status of both of these countries is not so easy. For example, USA has a defense budget of an insane $750 billion, while China has a defense budget of less than half of that, just $237 billion. Then again, the US is under a staggering debt of $17 billion, while China only has external debt of around $1 billion. Another important part of a country's finances are its foreign reserves. This refers to foreign currencies held by a country's bank. Why would a country, particularly one like China, want to hold on to reserves that are not even in their own currency? Because foreign reserves can be used to adjust the value of a currency. China pegs the value to its currencies to the dollar. So when China stockpiles dollars, it reduces the price of Chinese products. It's all very complicated and lengthy system. So let us know in the comments if you would like a video of us explaining foreign reserves to you in a way that doesn't give you death by boredom. Here, all you need to know is that the more foreign reserves a country has, the more control over its own product prices and spending it has, which means greater control of its own spending during wartime. The disparity between Chinese and American foreign reserves is insane. Get ready for the Chinese figure, $3 trillion. Yeah, it's hard to wrap our minds around that. Compared to that crazy figure, the U.S. has a measly reserve of $123 billion. You might argue that China still has developing nation status, but honestly, China has the #1 economy. Its purchasing power is $24 trillion, while the U.S. has only a $19 trillion figure in place. So, many factors of their finances are extremely complicated, and we can't judge which army can buy the most loyalties and weapons. On the other hand, if we assume that both the nations will not have enough time to mess around with technology and purchases before the war, we can perhaps predict an outcome by judging their existing weapons. Let's start in the air. Literally, let's judge the air weapons. The U.S. has a staggering 13,000 aircrafts, while China has only 2,000. Also, you would think flights wouldn't cost a mortgage in the U.S. if 13,000 aircrafts are available. And before you say these are combat planes, no. The U.S. only has around 2,000 combat aircraft, while China has 1,200. But we can't say that U.S. has a higher chance of winning because of 800 extra aircraft. The maneuvering of these planes are the main factor, and we can't really judge whose soldiers are more skilled. Unless we can convince Donald Trump and Xi Jinping to hold an exclusive competition for big facts. If we insist, either they'll say yes or we'll get shot. Who knows? Moving on to land. The U.S. has more armored vehicles and combat tanks than China, but the latter country has more self-propelled artillery and rocket projectors. To be honest, rocket projectors have a much bigger tactical and psychological effect on the enemy. Now, we will move on to the final but the most overlooked battleground: the ocean. China and U.S. both have huge coastal borders and hence quite impressive naval forces. But who would win in a battle between these two navies? Let's look at the facts. China has a fleet strength of 777, which is more than the U.S. figure of 490. But the U.S. has a lot of weapons that are in greater quantity than Chinese weapons. For example, aircraft carriers and destroyers. Don't think that China has been slacking on building its military prowess either. It has literally weapons that the U.S. has none of. An example of this is frigates, which are a type of warship. Are we forgetting something? Oh yes, all of these weapons need a liquid to operate. Yes, oil, the biggest and most treasured resource, particularly by the U.S. China possesses less figures in both oil production and oil consumption, so its proven reserves are lower. Keep in mind that we are not taking into account the capability of China to access oil in case it is in dire need of it. But the comprehensive comparison, it is obvious that China is catching up to America's famous army. So, how was Donald Trump and even other officials in Washington so relaxed? The training. The U.S. boasts highly intelligent training for its soldiers, which makes them capable of operating the country's valuable weapons to their maximum advantage. Moreover, this country has been expanding on training while China was continuously trying to close the technology gap between the two nations. China then pretty much has gotten what it needed, but the result is that PLA, which is the name of its army, is way behind on training by its own admission. However, it is public knowledge that China is fully aware of its lack of experience and has been studying the U.S. Army's operations and doctrines. The bottom line is that no matter what experts think is the downfall of the Chinese Army, it is self-aware of its weaknesses, and it is throwing massive resources to fix them. So, who do you think would win a full-blown war, granted that they decided not to use nuclear weapons and kill everyone in the process? Comment below and we'll pin the best one. Like this video and share it with everyone you know. Subscribe to our channel for making informed decisions about selling your loyalties. This was Big Factz, bringing you the best content on the internet. We'll see you next time.